Welcome back to Maroon Sports Talk. I'm Caleb Wells.
I'm Joey Aguire.
I'm Jenna Evans.
I'm Nick Speer.
All right, let's go ahead and hop straight into it. And we're going to start with the gridiron. So let's talk about what we saw last week. What do we think about EKU football?
Looked a lot better. All that talk about just the offense getting going, and it finally got going. And we've been talking so much about the defense and how much talent's on that end of the ball, but they really had no time to show themselves because they were on the field 24/7 because our offense couldn't get going. Well, our offense got going. Matt passed for more than 200 yards, and we had four different, between receivers and tight ends, 4 players caught more than 40 yards. Doesn't seem like a lot, but that shows that Matt trusts so many different people because that adds up to more than probably close to 200 yards receiving for 4 different people. So the offense got going. What do you think about it?
No, I love what you're saying there about like spreading the wealth between the targets. I think it's easy to get caught up in like flashy like games, big games for receivers over 100 yards. But I think I'd rather see Matt spread the wealth because that means when we get into the tougher games, the teams that we're playing, the opponents don't have to just like cover one player. Like it's nice to know that Matt has other targets and that he trusts them. And I've been preaching it since week 1, but against Mississippi State, but we finally saw passes completed over the middle. That's all I wanted to see.
Yeah.
That's what I said on the last episode. I just wanted to see passes completed down the middle of the field, and we finally got that. It wasn't just dump offs and out routes. Like he had time in the pocket to settle in and move around a little bit and then make the throws down the middle. And I love to see that. The running game looked good.
Yeah. It seems to be that the style of play is just take your time, get the ball down the field, eat up that clock, keep that defense on the sideline, keep them energized and stuff like that. And probably 2 of my favorite plays being on the sidelines is when Matt had a scramble to the right. It was facing towards the hill, and he scrambled right, stood up in the line of pocket and darted the one down the field, and it was for a touchdown. And then a couple other times we were down on the end of the goal line as well on another play. We kept getting penalties over and over again, and they just kept getting chunk plays, but they kept getting called back. And then we were like 3rd and 15, I think, and we scored. So, and that happened multiple times. So I think the offense looked a lot better. And so what did you kind of think about the defensive side of the ball this time around?
I was much happier with the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, only allowing 1 touchdown is a lot better than allowing 30 and 60 points the weeks prior. Obviously tougher opponents, but I think they looked a lot better too. I think the corners and the safeties looked a lot more physical. They were just all up in their receiver's grill, making sure they contested every catch. If they were going to give them a catch, it wasn't going to be an easy one. So I really loved the play from Vito Tisdale, Mike Smith. There were a couple PI penalties. We got to clean those up, but it's early in the season. You take care of those, and I think that physicality is going to go a long way.
I think also Kelly, our linebacker, Kyle Kelly, looked a lot better too. He had 11 tackles as well. So definitely just the defensive players as a whole looked a lot better. Now, it's not after Morehead State this weekend. What are you kind of seeing and expecting out of the team this week against Morehead State?
Right. So, against Morehead State, not a great opponent. Jenna, you can go ahead and tell your joke if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead.
There was an ongoing joke in my high school that our football team could beat Morehead State's football team. So, and if you know where I live and if you know my school, we're not the strongest sport-wise because we are such a small school. So, if that tells you anything.
Now, I will say, though, there is also a saying, too, that you can't overlook your opponent.
Right.
Because, if they come in here and win, that'd be rough. So, I'm expecting physical play. I'm expecting to take care of business heading into conference play here pretty soon. We already played UWG, who is a conference opponent, but I was doing some research before we got on, and the FCS is a top 25 as well, along with the FBS like UK and Penn State and stuff like that. But the FCS is a top 25. Well, 3 of our other schools in our football conference in the UAC are in the FCS top 25. Central Arkansas is as high as 8. So we really got to take care of business, gain some confidence. We cannot lose our confidence this weekend and fall flat on our face at home against Morehead State down the road. before we head into conference play, and 2 of those opponents are on the road. So really got to take care of business, work out whatever needs to be worked out this weekend, dominate before we head into conference play against some, it looks like pretty tough opponents in a pretty stacked conference this year. So
yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things I want to see is just us travel well. I think that's something we haven't necessarily done well in the past. I feel like we've seen EKU football teams travel to conference opponents and just fall flat. So I think once we can, I don't know, if we can establish the consistency, I think that's a good thing that we have Morehead State, which is considered an easier opponent. Like you said, can't play down to your opponent because that's when you end up getting comfortable and losing. But if they can just stay consistent and play like they did against UWG against Morehead State, I think that would be just good for us moving into conference play.
Jenny, you were on the sidelines for the game this past weekend. What was it kind of like being on the sideline? What was kind of the energy on the sidelines there?
It was so surreal because we're back at Roy Kidd, and we had been on the road, so being back at our home turf felt amazing. I felt like the team had so much more confidence on our home turf than they did when we were traveling, so I was really proud of that.
Yeah, and what was kind of like the energy in the stands, like seeing some fans? I know there's a lot of recruits there as well, what was that kind of like?
Oh, it was great. I mean, you would look up and people would be cheering on the Colonels, and that was something we didn't see on the road because not a lot of people travel with the team. So just seeing Roy Kidd packed, it was great. It was great.
I was on the sidelines, and there was a few EKU sports medicine people, and they looked at the stands like, I haven't seen this many people in the stands in a long time.
It was great.
It was pretty great. Joey, being as a student as well, what are you kind of expecting people to come this weekend? What are you kind of expecting out of the fans this upcoming weekend?
For
us, yeah. Or for EKU.
I'm expecting a lot of, probably the same amount of people as last time. I mean, I feel like all the freshmen are really excited to actually see EKU play, and that's why so many of them showed out last week, is because they're ready to see EKU actually stand up and make their stand against these opponents.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
moving on from football now, we'll move into volleyball. Volleyball is currently 7-3 on the season. They're coming off a huge win against Marshall on the road, which is great. And then they play another 3 games over today and tomorrow. What are your thoughts on volleyball, Nick?
Pretty good, actually. I mean, kind of just the same as last year. Pure domination, I know a lot of people were kind of suspect about us going on the road against Marshall, but we took care of business. We won the sets. We dominated them in kills, aces, digs, and assists. So that's like 4 stat categories that we purely dominated in. And so I was speaking to Vandergriff 2 weeks ago, AG Vandergriff, and she was like, just same business as usual. And she talked about like the expectations from going from last year to this year, and she was like, we still have that chip on our shoulder. We still got to prove ourselves. They had a heartbreaking loss in the ASUN tournament last year.
Right.
So they're like, we just got to take care of business and then get to the ASUN tournament and then hopefully make the NCAA tournament. So same business as usual for the volleyball team. What about you?
I think they look fantastic. They, like you said, a lot of things are similar as last year. Really a lot of the same returning players, but I think some of that new added depth and then just some breakout seasons from a couple players are really adding to what the team can bring. Senior Paige Wagers, she's senior class-wise, but this is her second season with EKU. But she currently leads the ASUN in blocks per set and is 18th in the nation in blocks per set.
That's pretty great.
It's incredible. I got to talk to her about it, and she said that's just been her mindset. That's been her goal when she's out there on the court. Like, her goal is just to get every block. Like, that's just her mindset, and she knows she's capable of it. So she's just a fantastic player that's dominating the defensive side. She, after the Jerry Polvino Invitational, which was the tournament we hosted here in Richmond, she was named ASUN Defensive Player of the Week, and that was a goal she set for herself. She'd never won that before in her collegiate career, so she got that, and that's pretty significant as a middle blocker. Most of the time in volleyball, the liberos that are eating up all those digs, getting 20-plus digs a game, those are your players that usually get that Defensive Player of the Week award. So for her to win that as a middle blocker is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
She had 11 blocks in one game against Morehead State.
Yeah.
Like, she's just really dominating the defensive side. And then other standout player has been Cooper Abney, the freshman. She's our secondary setter, the way the rotation is, but in their most recent match against Marshall, she actually had more assists than primary setter Emily Hill.
Yeah.
So just seeing these other players, this added depth to the team, just gives me a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
They feel like they can go out there and beat anybody, and I think that they absolutely can.
Absolutely. And speaking about confidence, too, what Vandergrift told me last week is that it seems a very personable coaching staff and players as well.
Absolutely.
She mentioned that head coach Rosani called her, and she was in traffic, and she stuck on the phone with her for over an hour, but she didn't ask about just her statistics. She asked about her as a person, her as just a human being, and asking her how she was doing in school and stuff like that. And then when she came to EKU as a freshman, she played in more than 30 games. Right. And she talked about that confidence and that senior leadership a few years ago, really just told her, hey, we expect you on the court, we expect you to go out and perform, and we're here if you need anything. So it just seems like a very personable team in locker room, and stuff like that.
Yeah, when I've got to talk to players, most recently Paige Wagers and Cooper Abney, but that's something they echoed as well, is just that the belief that Coach Bazzani has in them, and also just the freedom she gives them. Like Abney was telling me the freedom she has as a freshman to just go out there and do her thing is really what she thinks leads to her success. Coach Bazzani doesn't tell her to play like a freshman or act like a freshman. Be cautious. She's go out there. I know what you're capable of.
Yeah.
Go compete. Go perform. And,
absolutely.
And I think that's amazing. I think that's what's leading to success. Her just knowing what her players are capable of, and then just helping them succeed and accomplish that at the highest level.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And for Jenna, you being an athlete, what's it kind of like? How do you kind of mesh with the coaching staff and the players and stuff like that? How does it all kind of come to fruition throughout the season?
A big thing is just coaches believing in their athletes and not holding them back and not making them feel like they can't go out and do what they've done for their whole entire life. So just making sure you have a good relationship with them. If you need something, talk to them. If you have a question, talk to them. Because at the end of the day, they want your success just as much as you do.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so volleyball will head out today to Ohio. They've got 3 matches over the next 2 days. They're playing Oakland tonight, and then tomorrow they'll play Ohio and Liberty.
Yeah.
So Wagers said that this will be the toughest matches they've had since the Boston College Invitational at the start of the season. She said these are going to be their 3 toughest opponents. But she said that she fully believes they're capable of going 3-0 over the weekend, and I think they are too.
I thought it was pretty funny. Their Instagram story was the Ohio University. They put in the in all caps and the Ohio University. So,
right.
Can't overlook your opponents. So you said 3 toughest opponents. So I'm looking forward to that.
Right. I think it's going to be some really fun matches.
Yeah.
They said there's going to be a lot of physicality at the net. I'm looking forward to see what Wagers, Vandergrift, and Ledford do this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, now we're going to move on into esports. Joey, take it away.
So I have a rough schedule. All games should be starting around 8 p.m. Eastern time, and I don't know if teams got fully filled for each of these games. However, Monday nights are going to be Rainbow Six Siege, Super Smash Bros., and Apex Legends. Tuesday will be Valorant. Thursday will be Fortnite, and Friday will be Call of Duty.
Nice, that's awesome. What do you kind of thinking will be the most competitive out of these games right here?
I'm going to go with the same as what it was last semester and last year, Rainbow Six Siege.
Really?
Easily.
Rainbow Six Siege.
Easily Rainbow Six Siege.
What makes the Rainbow Six team so successful?
So I actually I knew someone on the Siege team last semester, and I remember you being there. I don't know if you heard me talk about what they had talked about as a team and everything, or what they had, the recognition they had gotten. It's mostly the communication aspect, as I said last week. Communication is very crucial when it comes to Rainbow Six Siege.
Right.
It's also knowing the different strategies and having balance on the team, whether you're attacking or defending, knowing who your opponents play best so you can ban those operators out, and just having an overall sense of strategy and I can't think of the word.
Cohesiveness?
Yeah, cohesiveness.
Read your mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Read your mind.
Yeah, it's a very team play game, very
Yes.
chemistry based.
Yeah.
So what about games like Fortnite or like Apex, where it feels like they're more like individually paced kind of games? Like, how do you find success when it's not all necessarily about playing together?
So while in Fortnite and Apex, because they're both battle royale games, you are more likely to have those one-on-one fights rather than those team fights.
Mm-hmm.
It's more so knowing what you can do and being able to do your part for the team still.
Mm-hmm.
Because Apex, still 3 people on a team. I believe Fortnite is quads, so you still have 3 other people on your team who are relying on you to do your part and not having to essentially walk around with you on their back.
Right.
That's pretty awesome. So, and then what are you kind of expecting out of like Smash, where it's just, is it duels, is it single player, how's it kind of
I have no idea, if I'm being honest.
Wow.
I don't have much insight into all these games, as I can only see stuff in the League of Legends part, and that's what I'm most familiar with. But I'm going to try to watch all of these games and see what each one does.
That'd be cool. Yeah, we'll be talking about that here in the next few episodes. We'll kind of get into those games and kind of do some recaps on that. So
yeah. So moving on from esports, going back to grass, Nick, can you talk about soccer?
Yeah, it just seemed like yesterday we fell behind pretty early. They scored with 3 in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. And then after that, we came out of halftime and just tried to make a roaring comeback, but it fell short. We lost 3-0. Lipscomb dominated shots on goal 10-2. We had 11 fouls on us, and so that didn't really help out us either. A lot of the fans are getting pretty kind of restless in the stands, where it seemed kind of one-sided, but you never really want to blame the ref. So, but there was a lot of fouls committed on us, and they had more goals attempted than us as well. So it just seemed like they were putting the pressure on us really the whole time, and that we had to keep soaking up that pressure. And I remember Caitlin talking about this last year, that never works out for soccer. If you're just eating up that pressure the entire game, you can never get the ball on the other side of the field. So that seemed to be the case yesterday for the soccer team. But Lipscomb's a really good team. They're 4-2 coming in. Right. So I think if we can right the ship on the pitch, we can turn the season around. 3-5 and I think 1. But it just seemed like we kind of fell behind early and could never really catch up.
So I remember we talked about last week, like them kind of riding that ship and moving in the right direction. Do you think that is a trend that we're going to continue to see? Do you think we're going to continue to see an uptick in like wins as we move into conference, or do you think those are going to be tougher opponents and we kind of plateau or even go in the wrong direction?
Yeah, it just really depends on the caliber of the opponent. The ASUN's really diverse in talent in soccer, so we'll kind of have to see. Next match, I think, is on the road, and then they'll come back home the September 26th to be home. So definitely getting that home field advantage, where we do show out a lot for the team. But we just got to get out early and get a quick start in every single sport that you play, even in esports as well. You got to get out to a quick start. If you get out, fall behind early, it's really hard to play from behind. So we just got to get out a quick start, and when we do win, that's what happens. We get out at a 1-0, 2-0 goal lead early, rather than just playing from behind 3-0. So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's
actually an interesting thing I hadn't thought about before. But Joey, what does a comeback look like in esports? You know, we talk about it all the time in football, basketball. You know, the courageous second half comeback. Can you talk about that in the world of esports?
Yeah. So I mean, it's different in each game, obviously, but the 2 games I know most about, Rainbow and League. Rainbow, you play offense and defense. Right. And usually, I don't know how many they play in this, but in the pros, I believe it's 5 rounds on offense, 5 rounds on defense. And it's whoever wins the most. So if you win the first 5, you only need to win the 6th game, and then you make it on. But there's been times where they've gone 5-5 and then it's overtime.
Wow.
So it's more so a matter of learning from your mistakes in between the rounds, and then using that to gain advantage on insight on how your opponents play and learning how to play
on the
against
fly.
them. Yes.
Adapting.
What does that kind of look for dance, Jenna? If you just can't seem to get one thing down, how do you kind of work on that?
We, as a team, are very close to each other. If we see one of our girls struggling, we push them until they achieve that skill or that technical aspect that they're missing. When it comes to competition, we actually do have rounds. So we have prelims and then sometimes semifinals and finals, just depending on how many teams are in each division. But when you go into prelims, you are hoping that you make it into that top half of scores to get taken to finals, because not everyone gets to go to finals. So if you make it to finals, you get that score back, you get comments from the judges back on what you need to fix in 12 hours before you compete again. So that's high pressure. This is what you want to fix if you want to pull up in placement, and then you go into finals with that mindset that here's what we're going to do, here's what we need to do in order to come out on top. So people don't even realize how competitive dance can really be on that side, because they're like, oh, you go, and they're like, oh, you're the best, so then you win. That's it. But no, there's multiple rounds that you have to go through in order to get to the place that you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, now to just have a little fun with it. If you guys were to play football, what position would you pick and why?
Go ahead, Joey. I know you played in high school?
I played from 5 to high school, and I'm going to have to go with the position I played in high school, starting left guard.
Okay.
Left guard, wow.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
O-line.
Dude,
The
one of my
O-line.
favorite
It's
times.
a very big hot topic debate in the NFL right now, is with Bryce Young and stuff like that, getting time in the pocket and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if you can't get time in the pocket, you can't get your ball to the receivers. So.
Yeah, one of my favorite photos I show all my friends. You've probably seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a photo of me. I'm 5'3", and I'm on the line, and this guy comes up. He's their nose guard, stands in front of me, and I'm looking down, getting in the zone. I look at his shoes, and I start looking up, and my eyes keep going up. He's 6 foot, easily, probably somewhere around 200 pounds maybe, and I weighed 110.
Hold down that fort.
I was able to hold him for as long as I needed to, but
There you go.
Hold the fort. Yeah.
my favorite memories from
Hold the
football.
fort.
David and
What about you,
Goliath.
Jenna?
I think any football team would probably just benefit from me being a water girl.
No, come on now.
I not to brag or anything, but I am part of the undefeated Powder Puff flag football team for my high school.
Come on now, yeah.
And I was a wide receiver, so
Okay.
I guess that would be it.
There you go. All right, what are you, Kale?
What about me? Okay. See, in my mind, I'd be like Mike Evans out there, just the big body receiver, tall, big catch radius. I'd probably go up against any DB and never touch the football. But but in my mind, I'd be like the next Mike Evans, so wide receiver.
I'd be like the next Revis Island. I'm going to go DB, on the cornerback for sure. Kind of an underrated position. A lot of people talk about how it's the hardest position other than the quarterback. But I like to say DB, be Revis Island and or Deion Sanders. So
Sure,
I would
sure.
love to be a DB, so that'd be really fun. Yeah.
We'll have to test our skills. You play DB.
How are we
I'll play
gonna
receiver.
film that? We can put it in a replay on the
Put it in a
podcast.
replay.
Yeah.
We'll have to get that for the
Talk with our
podcast.
producer. We'll talk with our producer about that.
I'm
so.
catching at least 3 touchdowns on next week.
Okay. All right. We'll have to see about that. All right. So.
All right. That's all we have for this week. So thank you guys for tuning in.
Roll Currents.